All right, I hope you enjoyed that quick video and welcome to another global economic report. As you can see, that's what $20 trillion looks like, which is around about our current debt. Our current debt for the United States is about 21 trillion, according to most calculations. There are a few out there that ballpark it as high as 24 or 25 trillion. So another interesting thing to note this here, so these links will all be underneath the video like always, but going from less risky to more risky, we have gold, and then we have paper money, which is base money and bank money, government bonds and treasury bills, corporate and bonds and listed stocks, non-monetary commodities, and then derivatives are by far the biggest at 1 quadrillion, and this is represented in $100 notes. Pretty interesting. Like, this is a very, very big page of information, so if you want to check it out, I definitely think this is a great place to start if you're new to a lot of this stuff, to get a fundamental and base understanding of what's going on. That would be a great place to start. So why we started there is we're continuing a conversation of US recession and the variables that go along with it. So it's interesting to me that now you have bank heads and economists talking about this, well, mainstream economists talking about this recession to occur in 20 or 2021, with it starting actually next year. I find that very interesting for many different reasons. One, when the mainstream economists start talking about it, that's usually when it's already in motion. And we've been talking about this stuff now for months and months, maybe even as far back as the beginning of 2018 is when I started to kind of catch on to this stuff. When everyone becomes aware of it, that's when it actually becomes manifest in a lot of ways. We look at every previous bubble, and there was definitely a storm that brewed, that continued to brew, and more people caught onto it, more and more people became privy to it as time went on, and then eventually it did actually occur. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York is actually saying that the market crash is there's a mere 14.5% chance, whereas JP Morgan is saying there's a 60% chance. The reason why is because they're looking at way more indicators rather, and they're looking at way more things. And JP Morgan has custodian of gold and silver. It is a huge player. So the numbers that JP Morgan is getting is probably very, very different than what a Federal Reserve Bank of New York is getting. It just all depends on what they're keeping the pulse they're, keeping their eye on. That brings up this conversation once again, is crypto an alternative? And crypto as it sits right now, I don't think is good enough as an alternative. I don't feel it is. From a security standpoint, I don't think it's ready. From a scalability standpoint, I don't think it's ready. I think it's getting there. The interesting coincidence to me is we've got now tons of patents happening in the background for blockchain technology from banks in China, from banks in the United States, from agencies all over the world, from Europe, from Japan, Asia, everywhere. Everyone, there's this mad dash for patents on blockchain technology. I think what'll be funny, a funny coincidence, is that there will be this simultaneous pivot of this recession coming in and some swap to digital currencies globally. It'll all happen around the same time. They're not trying to hide or stop the printing press at all on the US dollars, and with some of the plays that China's making, it makes it even more concerning. I think that those two will kind of happen. It'll be like one kind of goes away as the other one gets more and more popular. So mark my words on that. Yes, I'm betting on that largely, that not Bitcoin, but crypto itself will become big, and a digital currency, cryptocurrency, will become big as a option to move away from fiat. Most of China is already virtual anyways. They're using online and digital forms of payment anyways. They're the largest actually. So a lot of countries are already aligning for this and have been for the last 12 to 24 months. They're all gearing up. They're all getting ready. So that if we got to pull the plug, then it's a short pivot and a small, quick pivot over here to this thing. If you were to look at this and maybe say, oh, don't believe it. Well, big indicator is automotive loans. Okay, so buying new cars, essentially. And here's what's interesting about this is if you were to look at this chart, how you naturally see it is it would be deceiving you. And you would be thinking, oh, okay, all is good. Well, it's going up, right? Like even if you knew nothing, you'd just be looking at, okay, well, the chart is going up and it looks like it might be starting to tick down, but overall the number still looks to be like we're inside this moon, this parabolic, oh, this isn't parabolic, but this is an arc groove or an arc growth. But if you were to change it to percentage change from a year ago, then you'd start to see some truth. And so testing your own bias, then it's still even this, like, okay, well, am I just moving this to percent change from a year ago to, again, fit my bias? What other information do we have saying that things are bad, right? Because again, remember, automotive loans is a big indicator of how the economy is doing. It is a big pivotal piece. So we're gonna give a shout out to Charlie. I cannot pronounce his last name. You guys know I'm horrible with pronouncing names for whatever reason. If you want to follow Charlie, he produces some really great data and research. This was just published on the 18th. I could have gone into stockcharts.com and published this all myself, but why bother? Just give him credit and show what he's found. Everything is in the red. Every auto stock is in the red so far this year. And Tata, I don't even know what Tata Motors is, but they are by far the worst, which the next is Ford, then Daimler Chrysler, or Daimler AG. Chrysler's on its own now. There you go. So now we've tested the bias, and it is true that, yes, the Fed numbers are telling us that we are low. Even for the billions spent, we seem to be now starting the descent of the billions spent. And in comparison to the percent change from a year ago, yes, we're down. Okay, to confirm the bias, how are the stocks doing so far in 2018? All down. Okay, so that can confirm the bias. So there is just another piece of breadcrumb that is concerning. Okay, so now the next thing I want to talk about is BlackRock, which is it is the largest money manager in the world, and they are down. So now they are trading below $400 for the first time since 2017. Here is an interesting piece, which was published about a week ago. There has been $24.8 billion from BlackRock's index and active product suite of, investment tools. That is very concerning, and it shows fear. Even the CEO, Larry Fink, what's he saying? He's quoted as saying, "We're not particularly happy." Yeah, no shit. They should be really unhappy when a huge amount of money like that just runs out the front door. And so, okay, now we have a big indicator, which just stack that on top of all the other pieces that I've been giving you, that auto loans are down. We have the largest money manager in the world, the largest money manager, saying we're not particularly happy when $24.8 billion runs out the door. And there's other information here. It's down now 30% from their recent highs. And this piece here, which again, I'll have linked under the video, is a great piece to, if you want to learn the fundamentals for BlackRock, you can go through this piece, and that will help you get up to speed on that. Now let's pivot and talk China again and this trade tariff war going on. What's interesting is that if you hadn't already seen the writing on the wall with China really being in front of this thing and being in control of a large market share, then some of the things going on with the trade itself might help fill the gaps. So now we've got a piece by Larry Kudlow, who used to be a Federal Reserve and Wall Street economist. He now, I believe, is a presenter on CNBC still, but he's on camp, he's pro-Trump guy. Essentially what this piece is talking about is that in terms of trade, they're just not following up. They're getting nothing. It would be like if you went on Alibaba and you asked a bunch of questions from a provider and you got nothing back, and nothing for weeks. That's what they're kind of saying here, is that they've essentially gotten nothing back. Now, next month, there's going to be the G20 in Argentina, which I think will be interesting, how Donald Trump and Xi, however you pronounce the president's first name for China, they'll both be there. But I think overall, the US should be in a place of power here, but the fact that they're not should tell you that China's been doing things behind the scenes to ensure that they are getting more people on board with not only the yuan as a reserve currency, but also doing business with them. I think there's like over 550 billion represented in exports from China to the United States. But how come they're not sweating it? It really makes you wonder, how come they're not sweating it right now? And so that must mean they have some other plan, because you got to admit, China's smart. And so if Trump cuts the US off, here's Bloomberg admitting the same thing. If Trump cuts off the US from trade with China, the likeliest outcome is that China's economy would take a small hit, while the US would see its position as an economic center of the world slip into memory. And what that's actually saying is that the US dollar being used as the global currency or the reserve currency globally would slip. It would no longer be like that, because China would just start to make deals with other countries and they would start to use the yuan as the reserve currency, which I think is very troublesome for the US dollar, because then all those US dollars start to get sent home. And if nobody's buying, the debt, then where does the debt go? Well, it goes right back into US markets, and that creates hyperinflation. It might create a small deflationary event and then hyperinflation, but it ultimately all leads to hyperinflation. You know, China's been working its way through, staying busy with making deals with Africa and funding tons of areas throughout Asia. Like, most people that live in the United States, they have no clue about this, but there's so much that's China owned. It's insane. Throughout Indonesia, throughout Malaysia, throughout Cambodia, throughout Thailand, throughout Hong Kong, everything seems to be Chinese owned. It's insane. The only place I don't know of how strong China's hold is in Japan, honestly. But everywhere else, Chinese investors are very, very heavy. Very, very heavy. All right, my friends, that's all I got for you in this video. Kept it short and sweet for you, but we're going to keep stacking on these different countries. I'm going to start to talk more about Europe as I continue to research it and what's going on with some of those countries. We'll continue to talk about Malta, because Malta really seems to be emerging out as a crypto capital, which I think is going to be very interesting to watch. And so I'll start to integrate some more of those pieces, but we're going to keep tracking the US dollar, the debt, and China, because those are big players in this shift, in this pivot game that's going on. The best thing you can do for yourself right now is to create your own sovereignty. It blows my mind how many people still play the victim card, how many people still think that their livelihood and their well-being is in the hands of somebody else. I hate to be the bearer of bad news for you, my friends, but it is not. You create your own outcome, okay? So you are a co-creator in every single thing that happens to you. So your current reality, you help create in some sort of way. There is no excusing it, no hiding from it, and to do so is just silly, because you are missing this opportunity window right now. The window is over the next 12 to 24 months to get your mind right and get your finances right, to get into position to really leverage this in the best possible way for you to grow. And that is personal sovereignty, my friends. That is empowerment, and that is what we should all be chasing. Beyond the borders, the stripes, and the colors of where you think you're born, where you think your allegiance lies with your political party, your country party, etc. That should all be second to primary goal, which is to create your own personal sovereignty for you and your family, to ensure that your legacy survives, my friends. And that is what we're going to be talking about more and more as time rolls on. So if you like this video, just take a second, click the like button. It means so much to us, and it does so much for us in the YouTube algorithms. And if this is the first time to the channel, take a second, click the bell notification, the subscribe button, all that good stuff. Share it with friends. Help us spread this message around. I think that everyone in the United States needs to watch videos like this and understand them. They might not like them, but to watch them, and the more they are, subject to this sort of information, the more it's going to crack those beliefs wide open and start to get them to think a different way, which is the whole goal here. Okay, thank you so much. Be on the lookout. More videos dropping soon on the channel. See ya.